News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
5:05 in for Bill Walter. I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News Update. It's brought to you by Lendright Mortgage. Interstate 15 closed last night in North Salt Lake after a deadly wrong-way crash. According to the Utah Highway Patrol, Davis County dispatchers received reports of the wrong-way vehicle traveling southbound in the northbound lanes of I-15 at approximately 7:14 p.m. Now, Chris Bishop, a sergeant with the Utah Highway Patrol, told KUTV that the wrong-way vehicle hit a motorcyclist and then two other vehicles near 2600 South. One of the people involved died from the injuries sustained in the crash, while four others were hurt. Bishop also said that one of those injuries was in extreme critical condition. This was the 30th wrong-way incident this year, according to Utah Highway Patrol officials. Another one, of course, involved a trooper earlier in the day in Salt Lake City. Well, that weather forecast calling for a mix of clouds through the night tonight as we hit the mid-30s today. Tonight we'll drop into the teens overnight and could see another chance of some snow overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning, as temperatures tomorrow expected to be only around the mid-20s, low 20s coming for Wednesday and Thursday before we'll get back into the high 20s. And looks like by next weekend we'll be back into the 30s. After today, though, it doesn't look like we'll see another chance of any snow. Well, it's been over 12 years now since Susan Cox Powell disappeared when the 28-year-old West Valley City woman went missing in December 2009. Her husband, Josh, said that their two sons and he had gone into the West Desert to camp and make s'mores. Now, Susan was never seen again, and many searches have taken place in the West Desert since then. The most recent search, occurring earlier this month, has been one of the most promising yet. Chuck Cox, Susan's father, told King 5 Television in Seattle that he is cautiously optimistic. Now, the most recent search for Susan was put together by Dave Sparks, star of the Utah-based reality show Diesel Brothers. The search was centered in an old mine shaft that some have theorized might have been where Susan's body was discarded. Now, Chuck Cox drove from Washington to join the search and also thank those who continue to look for his daughter. The searchers say that they found bones and a pair of pants that have now been turned over to forensic investigators who will be doing a DNA test to determine whether or not they are Susan's remains. Well, in high school basketball action, the semifinals are set for tomorrow. Ridgeline downing Green Canyon in quarterfinal action earlier today. Final in that game was 75-44. Meanwhile, Skyview earlier today beat Crimson Cliffs 66-58. So for tomorrow's semifinals, first you'll have Skyview facing off against first seed Snow Canyon. That game will tip off at 6 o'clock. And then tomorrow at about 7:40, Dixie, the second seed in the tournament, will take on Ridgeline. And like I said, that'll tip off at about 7:40. Get more on these and other stories at CashValleyDaily.com. In for Bill Walter, I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News Update.
Does your home have that stuffy winter smell? John at the Duct Hunter says it could be your air ducts holding on to dust and other surprises. To get rid of that smell, give John a call at the Duct Hunter. He'll thoroughly clean each duct in every room. Not with a shop vac, but with forced air and a vacuum that'll make your mom proud. He can even run a camera through your vents to see what's going on. For a free consultation, call the Duct Hunter at 770-4813.
We are the Duct Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter. News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
NMLS 1817019.
From our Freedom Loan that covers 100% of your closing costs to our $1,000 lowest rate guarantee. As Utah's premier mortgage broker, Lendright Mortgage shops the top lenders in the country to find you the absolute lowest rate and fees. We often beat other lenders' rates by 1/4 to 0.5%. That means a lower mortgage payment for you, which can save you tens of thousands over the life of your loan. Compare us to any lender. If we can't save you a minimum of $1,000, we'll give you $1,000. Nobody does what Lendright Mortgage does. Nobody. See our rates and get a free quote on your purchase or refinance. Call 801-APPROVE or visit LendrightMortgage.com. Crushing other lenders is our specialty. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com.
Cache Valley Chamber of Commerce invites you to attend the annual awards gala on Friday, March 4th. It's at the Riverwoods Conference Center. Enjoy a wonderful evening of fine dining in recognition of Cache Valley's outstanding businesses and individuals, including Citizen of the Year, New Small Business, Event of the Year, Nonprofit Mentor of the Year, and Woman of the Year. Featuring musical entertainment from America's Got Talent finalist Kennedy Dodds. Don't miss the Cache Chamber Awards Gala Friday, March 4th at the Riverwoods. Reserve your seat at cashchamber.com or call 752-2161.
It's the President's Day sales event all month long at Heritage Ram. There's never been a better time to find yourself behind the wheel of the most capable line of trucks in America. And right now, we've got great deals on all 2021 and 2022 Ram trucks. No matter what your pickup needs are, there's a Ram that's as tough as you are. Find out why Ram Trucks is the brand with the highest owner loyalty in the nation. The President's Day sales event all month long at Heritage Ram, your hometown dealer with the biggest deals.
Hello, I'd like to vote for president, governor, and anything that will take money away from our parks and libraries.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter out today. Bill, if you're listening, hope you safe return from the Pacific Northwest, where Bill tells me they've been getting a little dusting of snow too. So it's not just us. Dropped down to 31 degrees here at the Radio Ranch, and the reason I keep pointing that out is if you've been paying attention to the forecasts here, top and bottom of the hour throughout the news day, 31's going to seem pretty balmy after today. Yeah. Highs throughout the rest of this week in the mid to high 20s at most. Lows overnight, many nights this week in the single digits. Wednesday night around 2 degrees. And then cold again Friday. And then it starts to warm up Sunday, this coming Sunday. Saturday, not bad. Still cool at night. But Sunday, it looks like we're climbing back up almost to 40. So it's a short-lived cold front, but cold it is. It's President's Day. The holiday that most people, I think, are made aware of by finding out their bank is closed and the mail wasn't delivered. But it is a holiday with a lot of history. It dates back, honestly dates back to technically the celebration of George Washington's birthday. But it became an official holiday in the 1880s when Washington's birthday was first celebrated as a federal holiday, an official federal holiday. And then in 1968, Congress passed what was known as the Uniform Monday Holiday Bill. This was to kind of, I think it wasn't that Congress, if you go back and read some of what was written about that in 1968, it wasn't that Congress felt, I'm sure individual members of Congress felt this way, but it wasn't that Congress overall was saying there are too many holidays. What they were saying is it's getting tough to remember, and things are closed too often, and so let's consolidate some things. So to make it easier to celebrate, but also for people to remember and be a part of that if they choose to. And so this Uniform Monday Holiday Bill was passed in 1968, which moved a whole slew of federal holidays to Mondays. Instead of a specific date, it would say, they were encouraged at least to move federal holidays to things like the third Monday of February or something like that. And so in 1968, moved a number of federal holidays to Mondays. The change was designed, again, to schedule certain holidays so that workers had a number of long weekends throughout the year, but also so that there weren't so many holidays scattered throughout the year on random days of the week. So Mondays became the celebration day, even if it wasn't officially the day. Interestingly enough, during the debate on that bill in 1968, it was proposed that Washington's birthday be renamed President's Day to honor the birthdays of both Washington, which is actually tomorrow, February 22nd, and Lincoln, which was actually a few days ago, February 12th. So several states celebrated Lincoln's birthday independently and still do today, but as a federal holiday, it was proposed during the debate on this Uniform Monday holiday bill that they just combined these two, where they're both in February, the 22nd for Washington, 12th for Lincoln, and then at the same time make it an official federal holiday. It wasn't until, again, in the 1880s when Washington's birthday became a federal holiday. But this debate was over combining Lincoln and Washington's and then making it an official federal holiday called President's Day. The bill was passed, didn't go into effect until 1971, and President's Day became the commonly accepted name after that pretty quickly, mainly due to retailers' use of the name to promote sales. And with the holiday being, every year being close to both Lincoln and Washington's birthday, President's Day usually marked by a bunch of public ceremonies in Washington, D.C. that in the early days of television news were broadcast in their entirety in living rooms throughout the country. So President's Day caught on as a federal holiday pretty quickly. So it is, though, it's become more of a tradition. I love this. I miss this because former State Senator Margaret Dayton used to have a tradition that I think irritated most people. I thought it was kind of charming, but she would always, in the lead up to President's Day, give a bit of a lecture on President's Day, what it means, and she, I think, was opposed to the combination of the holidays and then just randomly selecting the third Monday in February, things like that. But it was a great speech that she'd give, and she was frustrated. I like this, but she was frustrated because for many, President's Day has become just a day to recognize presidents in general. That could be the current president. It could be your favorite president, your least favorite president, some fun part of some fun part of history relating to a president or something like that. As for me, whenever asked on President's Day if I have a favorite president story, I do, actually. And it has nothing to do with Washington or Lincoln, who technically that's what this day is about. But again, it relates to presidents. And for me, my absolute favorite, and by favorite, I don't mean that I see this as a high point in U.S. history or a good thing that I would hope to see repeated. It's the opposite. It's my favorite because it stands as a reminder whenever someone says, politics today, they're just too nasty. Politics today are too polarized or too... it's a good reminder that these things have a tendency to wax and wane. It can definitely feel like that, especially if you're online, on social media. It can seem like our politics these days are absolutely unhinged. You have one party, the Democratic Party, kind of digging in, entrenching themselves in these ideas that, to their credit, they fought for throughout, but unwilling to approach things with, a tweak here and there, or and then they get away with that because on the other side you have the Republican Party that, let's be honest, seems to have completely lost its ever-loving mind right now. It'll find it again. We've been here before. Both parties have, but weird times, to say the least. And so it's easy to say, it's so awful right now. It's just horrible right now, and it can be in a lot of ways. But for me, this is a story from history that relates to presidents here on President's Day that's a nice reminder that it has been ugly before. It does get, and if you really want to dig into a different kind of ugly, go back and read about the Andrew Jackson years. But this is an ugly that I think most people today, especially those who read about politics on social media, will understand, because this is a very old, dating way back to 1800, mudslinging fight, like what you'd see in the Facebook comments on some post about vaccines these days. But it took place between two presidential candidates who were also former friends. They were very close at one point. The story is, of course, the famous feud of John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, although some have argued that this was a one-sided feud, that Adams was angry and his feathers were ruffled over some event or some comment or something, and that Jefferson didn't share his animosity. He couldn't figure out why Adams was so angry about it. He didn't hate Adams himself. That's a version of history that I've read from historians, but other historians have said, no, it was, at a certain point at least, maybe not at first, but it eventually became very mutual. These two did not like each other. The reason, though, is it can only be speculated at. But what we do know, documented fact, is that in the election of 1800, it reached a pretty remarkable low that might make you feel a little bit better about today's politics, knowing it happened and then stopped happening, got better way back then. The election of 1800 pitted Adams and Jefferson against each other, and this was in the fight to succeed Washington, and Adams, during that election, at a speech, Adams called Jefferson a, quote, mean-spirited, low-lived fellow, the son of a half-breed, sired by a Virginia mulatto father. It was a racist insult. It was, but it was also using the terminology at the time that would be most likely to just drag Jefferson down. And that was the goal, of course, but it was extremely mean-spirited. In an attack ad, Adams said Jefferson, if elected president, that, quote, murder, robbery, rape, adultery, and incest will be openly taught and practiced. The air will be rent with the this is an exact quote, the air will be rent with the cries of the distressed, the soil will be soaked with blood, and the nation black with crimes. That was an actual campaign statement, I think issued verbally, not written, by Adams in response to an attack from Jefferson. And, yeah, that's pretty harsh. So it has been as ugly as it is right now before, and we did recover from that, and things did settle down. Interestingly, though, the animosity, the anger between Adams and Jefferson, if Jefferson was playing along, it carried over, sadly, into second president of the United States, John Adams' final moments. How sad is that? In 1826, it was written by a journalist who was there bedside that that Adams said Thomas Jefferson still survives, and Adams was basically saying he was angry about that. But what Adams didn't know, and what no one there knew, is that Jefferson had actually died 5 hours before. Both deaths, they both died on the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So, interesting bit of history there, and some really nasty mudslinging that dates back to that election of 1800. So it might seem bad today. It's not the end of the world. It's ugly. It's unpleasant, but it doesn't mean everything's falling apart necessarily. Or maybe it does. I don't know. But you can't pin it entirely on that. Check it out. That election, by the way, the 1800 election, is a very interesting bit of political history to read. A couple of books on that you can easily find. Check them out. It was a turning point of sorts when it comes to campaigning in the United States. All right. President's Day, celebrated today again, and we will now return to what's been going on in Utah's Capitol Hill the last several weeks and what's coming up this week and the final two after that. There is a lot going on. We've covered most of it so far. We also have remarks from Representative Dan Johnson, asked why he was opposed to the school voucher bill, being called the Hope Voucher Bill. He at length explained. Now, Governor Cox, of course, has already said he will veto this bill, so it's probably DOA, but the House is determined to have a debate on it, and Cache Valley's own Representative Dan Johnson from Utah House 4 has said he's not a fan of the school voucher idea. Why, though? Well, stay tuned right after this.
If you have an aging loved one who could use a little extra help, you may wonder how much help is needed. Legacy House of Logan may be what you're looking for. Their different levels of care can accommodate your loved one no matter his or her needs, from daily tasks like dressing and bathing and medical administration to more advanced care for those with dementia. Legacy House of Logan offers all the comforts of home with a caring staff who really know how to take care of your loved ones. We invite you to stop by and see if Legacy House of Logan is right for your loved one on 1400 North in Logan.
Hi, this is Drew Allen with Allen Mortuaries. Over the years, thousands of families have planned ahead with Allen Mortuaries. Planning ahead helps you make informed and thoughtful decisions. It also spares your family the stress of making these decisions under the pressure of time and strong emotions. Allen Mortuaries' secure pre-need trust plan can save you nearly 40% versus other plans. Keep it simple, safe, and secure. Go with the proven choice, Allen Mortuaries. Voted best funeral home in Cache Valley in northern Utah. Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
Read Across America Day is coming March 2nd. To celebrate with the young readers in your life, join Reading is Fundamentals Rally to Read online webcast. Listen to read-alouds from acclaimed children's authors Sandra Boynton, Chelsea Clinton, and Monica Brown. Join us for a fun-filled event that will motivate elementary-aged children and explore how reading inspired our special guests. Teachers and families, don't miss this free 45-minute event full of unique storytelling and reading fun. Learn more and register today at rallytoread.org. That's rallytoread.org.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I'm Jason Williams. The school voucher bill, Hope Scholarships, lawmakers have labeled it, which is, I mean, that's your first tell when they try to come up with a rosy sounding name, because school vouchers have been so unpopular in Utah traditionally. Yeah, I mean, that should be the first red flag, right? But they're calling them Hope Vouchers, or Hope Scholarships, sorry. But it is a school voucher bill, and as we reported last week here on the show, Governor Cox, in his monthly news conference, came right out and said, black and white statement, that he would veto the school voucher bill should the legislature pass it. The bill was circled almost immediately, well, within the next half an hour during legislative action, but it will be coming back, I'm sure. And I think the House is determined to have a vote on it. The Senate will probably do the governor's work for him and kill the bill, if I had to guess. But that aside, regardless of what happens at the legislative level, or if this ends up being some sort of veto overrides battle between the governor and the legislature, remains to be seen. Representative Dan Johnson from Utah House 4 district here, Logan City proper, basically, Republican lawmaker, said unequivocally during a recent legislative town hall he is opposed to the voucher bill, and his reasons for it are pretty clear. Primarily, Representative Johnson said it doesn't help places like Cache Valley.
As he mentioned, we will get some new revenue estimates. Just kind of want.
I'm sorry, that is the wrong audio. Blame me. Bill is not here.
The core,
here we go.
In our state social studies core K-12. So over a 3-year period, we'll get some longitudinal data about what works and why it works, and then try to scale that up across the state. That's a much safer environment than just hoping people do the right thing without any sort of controls or any sort of idea exactly what's going on. So that's going to be a nice environment. So we've got to see that moving forward. Another thing that worked really hard on for the last 2 years has been trying for counties of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th class. Their EMS is run pretty much by volunteers, and it's difficult anymore to get volunteers. And often the volunteers that we get, they're not only on EMS, but they're volunteers for search and rescue, and they're the volunteer for fire. And the days of people volunteering have kind of disappeared. And so out in some of these rural areas, as I said on the floor today when this passed, that, you know, it seemed like in the pandemic, everybody went out and bought a 4-wheeler and a side by side and a boat and a camper trailer and hiking shoes, and away they went. And they've gone all over rural Utah, and it's really tested that system.
Next question on school vouchers.
I think right now our teachers are overloaded. And then we do one more thing to tell them that, well, you know, kids don't need to go here, they can go there, whatever. I think it's the wrong thing. We've been trying to get money into our charter schools and into our other public schools, And it just seems like we're siphoning it off. I don't think right now is the time for it. I think with the climate, with what has gone on with teachers and with schools right now, it's just, it is really bad timing. And I, the teachers, the education associations, everybody that I've worked with, the Utah State School Board, the Utah State School Boards Association, the State Superintendents Association, the UASSP, which is the State Association of Secondary School Principals, the Utah Elementary Association of Elementary Principals. I am talking to you about thousands of people do not like it. And so that what the bill does is that it does try to create a way for a person to be able to choose where their kid is going to go. And I look at that and I think, well, you know what? Right now, if you live in Logan, and if you want your kid to go to Green Canyon, all you got to do is go to Green Canyon, unless their classes are full. You can switch within districts. And we have charter schools, like 75 of them. I don't know. I guess I grew up in the era that separation of church and state. And I've never thought that we should use public tax dollars to send people to private institutions. And people say, well, yeah, but we're already paying taxes. Yes, you are. But you're also making a choice to send your kid to a religious school or a private institution. Those are choices that you get to make. And so I don't think everybody else ought to be making up for somebody else's choices. And that's kind of how I feel like that runs sometimes. So I'm just really against that kind of stuff. I don't like voucher bills. I believe in the American public school system. And I believe that if parents want to keep your kid home and homeschool them, you go right ahead. Because you know what else? We've got first line, absolute great curriculum that you can use, send your kid through and get a graduate from high school, if that's what you want to do. You can send them to a charter school if that's what you want to do. You can send them to a neighboring school if that's what you want to do. But I am not going to vote for spending our tax dollars for private institutions. I know that there's been, because now people just sort of think, well, just do whatever you want, whenever you want. I think the days of seeing education like we used to know it, those days are kind of gone. And I think it's going to be a struggle for us to get it back. So the more we let these other kind of things happen, the less we're going to have, what we've sort of always held as a time-honored way of sharing the American ideal. And I think that's the purpose of our schools.
That was, again, Representative Dan Johnson speaking at last week's legislative town hall. Asked, starting out there with a bit of a recap of some of the bills he's working on, and then asked by a viewer of the town hall. This is all happens online via the Cache County GOP YouTube channel. And they were asked by an audience member during the Q&A part about the voucher bill. Of course, Governor Cox has said he will veto the bill. It is possible the legislature rallies around the voucher idea, as they did before the referendum fight in 2007, when voters told them no on vouchers, and passes it with a veto-proof majority, at which point the governor can't stop it, and it would require a public referendum. Unfortunately, they've changed the law since then, because they're still mad about that, the public telling them what to do. How dare they? Now, if something passes with a veto-proof majority, it is not subject to referendum, so we would actually be stuck with a voucher program. So whether you're opposed or against, call your lawmakers if you have an opinion on this one, because I have a feeling this isn't dead yet. For those who are proponents, that should excite you. For those that are opponents, that should worry you. But it's been circled for the time being after the governor said he would veto it. And that usually means that the sponsors in the Senate and the House call the governor's office and say what would get the governor on board. And unfortunately, in this situation, the governor had said, like Representative Dan Johnson just said, vouchers are great for the Salt Lake County and Utah County area. Paraphrasing here, of course. They don't really do much for the rural areas of the state. It's just your tax dollars going to send wealthier kids in Salt Lake to private schools instead of your tax dollars paying for the school districts in your area. The governor said he promised to be a governor of rural Utah, and so would be vetoing that bill should the legislature pass it. Representative Dan Johnson explaining there, he just feels that it's not a time to be doing this, that public education needs a lot of work, a lot of attention, and this just hollows it out even further. So you can see Representative Johnson's full comments on this. That was just a clip, and also remarks on other issues that all of Cache Valley's lawmakers had regarding the legislative session so far in this legislative town hall. That happened last Thursday evening and will happen again this Thursday evening, every Thursday on the Cache County Republican Party's YouTube channel. On YouTube, simply search for Cache County GOP. And we'll be back. More of what's happened so far and what's might be happening this coming week as the legislative session moves on. That's coming up after this look at the news with KVNU's Will Philwright.
Well, thank you, Jason. The news this hour is brought to you by UNI Furniture. Statistics show that during the pandemic, the number of Utah families experiencing food insecurity grew. And advocates say that the state needs to take a leading role in finding solutions to the problem. To that end, a bill working its way through the Utah legislature would formalize a working group of stakeholders who meet periodically to exchange ideas and propose policies. Legislation SB 133 to consolidate the ad hoc coalition into a state entity with staff and funding is pending right now before the Senate Natural Resources, Agriculture, and Environment Committee. Alex Cragen with Utahns Against Hunger says that creating the State Nutrition Access Coalition, or SNAC for short, would be a major step forward in addressing the problem.
Reducing food insecurity and reducing hunger at the state is something that is doable. It's actionable. There are a number of ways to approach it. And the first thing we need to have is a place to discuss that and a place to prioritize that.
SNAC would be under the support of Utah State University's Hunger Solutions Institute and would include agencies that administer nutrition programs, public health officials, and groups like the Utah Food Bank and Utahns Against Hunger. Cragen believes there is support for the measure, which could come up for consideration early this week. And Salt Lake City police are conducting a death investigation after a body was found on the grounds of the city's main library square. The investigation started shortly after 10 a.m. yesterday when a person flagged down a sergeant as they were leaving the public safety building. The Fox 13 reports the person claimed finding a body on the walkway just northwest of the pedestrian overpass near 300 East and 500 South. Homicide detectives, the crime lab, and medical examiner's office all responded to process the scene and collect evidence. Based on initial observations, the death was originally considered suspicious, but investigators later determined that it did not appear to be the result of foul play. Well, in high school basketball, during the quarterfinals of the 4A state championship in boys basketball, Skyview downing Crimson Cliffs earlier today, 66-58. While Snow Canyon, the top seed in the tournament, beat Hurricane 58-34. So tomorrow in the semifinal first game, you'll have Skyview facing off against top seed Snow Canyon. Meanwhile, Dixie beat Cedar 41-34, and then Ridgeline earlier this afternoon downed Green Canyon 75-44. So in that second semifinal matchup tomorrow night, it will be second seed Dixie facing off against third seed Ridgeline. Well, the weather forecast calling for a small chance that we could still see some snow overnight tonight as temperatures are going to drop to about 13 degrees overnight tomorrow. Mix of clouds with some sunshine. That's going to continue over the next several days as we're going to see some very cold temperatures. Wednesday, Thursday particularly, with highs only around the low 20s. Overnight temperatures around the single digits before Friday and Saturday when it'll start warming back up towards the 30s. I'm Will Philwright, in for Bill Walter with your KVNU News Update.
The colder weather is here. Are your quilts and blankets looking dingy? Is your winter coat or jacket dirty enough to stand in the corner just by itself? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It'll take no time at all to freshen up everything. They have the 55 and 80-pound washers, the biggest around, and great big dryers, too, and it costs a whole lot less than dry cleaning. Free Wi-Fi and drop-off service. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town on the corner of 5th East, 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham at 1st East, 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry.
Pristine wilderness can still be found in the West, where creeks run freely and historic apple trees still bear fruit. Maple Creek Ranch features breathtaking canyon views and opportunities for real estate development. 2.5-acre lots are now available with adjacent wilderness areas that provide endless riding and recreational possibilities. So find your piece of paradise just 35 minutes from Logan at Maple Creek Ranch. Schedule your appointment online at maplecreekranch.net.
If you're looking for your next pre-owned vehicle, buy it from a name that Utah has trusted for over 95 years. For generations, the Murdoch Auto Team has given Utah's pre-owned car, truck, and SUV buyers a comfortable, no-pressure buying experience. So go for the gold this February and get 1.99% financing for 72 months, plus no payments for 90 days, and a complimentary gift with every pre-owned vehicle purchase. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family at Murdoch Hyundai or online at murdochhyundai.com.
1.99% APR. Must finance through GWCU. Not all buyers will qualify. See dealer for complete details. Offer ends 2/28/22.
Coming up on the Tuesday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, live from Mar-a-Lago, everybody. That's right, former President Trump joining us, top of the show, to talk about Ukraine, Biden, inflation, the border, crime, and more. Plus, Clay, what do you got?
The latest on everything surrounding the insanity in Ukraine. We'll track it throughout the course of the show. Plus, we're going to have several other special guests in addition to Donald Trump. Should be a special Clay and Buck live from Mar-a-Lago. 3 hours of fun. Come hang.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU.
Smokey, this is not Nam. This is bowling. There are rules. Hey.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Technical difficulties here in the studio. With Bill Walter out, I'm pushing my own buttons, and I had not turned my own microphone on. Usually it's Bill that does that to me. A few more items to get to from last night's legislative town hall. And again, you can watch the entire town hall, courtesy of the Cache Republican Party, on the Cache County GOP YouTube channel. On YouTube, simply search for Cache County GOP. You can watch the entire just under an hour-long event. We're just bringing you some highlights here. But there was one other item that I wanted to make sure was included in the show today, because it's been a multi-year push from two different governors now. It was a huge part of the federal infrastructure bill debate, and it's something that state leaders and state economists and county leaders and city leaders have said again and again and again needs to happen if we're going to see economic improvements and more jobs coming to those rural areas, especially those that are struggling now with the loss of certain fossil fuel-related jobs as that market continues to implode. So it's a big deal, is what I'm getting at, and yet there hasn't been a lot of action on this or even funding from the legislature on something as simple as expanding broadband. It's weird how things have changed, right? We went from a time 20 years ago when, broadband was a luxury. It was something that, you didn't need, but it was fun. And then soon after that, it was, okay, it's something that a lot of people need, but not everybody. And then it went to, well, okay, it's kind of hard to do this and that if you don't have it. Then there was the smartphone revolution. Then everyone was like, oh, nobody will have broadband in their homes. And then that didn't prove true. And here we are today, in which it's nearly impossible to get anything done as a business, as an individual, as a parent, as a student, without, quality internet access in your home. And there are a lot of areas in Utah in which that's still not a great option for them, to a quality internet access. It's either extremely expensive or not even available. One of the problems, I've harped on this on the show for years, but one of the problems we have here in Utah is that we've always, the broadband map here in Utah, we've allowed that to be drawn and the information that goes into it supplied by the internet service providers themselves. And, they have a lot of incentive to say, yeah, we're providing great coverage all over this geographic area, when that might not actually be true. And so there are several of us nerds who have a bit of cachet with the legislature, who have said again and again. Representative Stephen Handy has been very receptive to this, and myself and Jesse Harris at Utopia have had conversations with him about this, and he's wanted to change this for a long time. But again, the state really just has no idea where there's great broadband or substandard broadband, or they've even at times found that the map says there's broadband available, only to find out that there isn't at all. So that needs to change. And if you're going to map this out, it should happen before you start spending on broadband expansion. Well, the legislature has decided, what a great idea. And so they're running with it. And so we'll jump back now again to a moment from last night's legislative town hall in which Senator Chris Wilson spoke about this specifically. I didn't know this myself, but he is actually sitting on a task force working on exactly this. How can we best use a lot of this federal infrastructure money to get broadband or better broadband out to rural areas so that they can take advantage of things like the governor's initiative to get 30% of the state workforce working from home. Someone in Rich County, if they had broadband access, could work for a state agency, high-paying job, but do so from the comfort of their home in Rich County if they had broadband. That's just one example, too. And also, this does open up the doors for where businesses can locate. Instead of being crunched along the Wasatch Front and in Salt Lake County and here in Cache Valley, businesses would have the option to actually locate themselves in somewhere like Rich County or the outskirts of Brigham City and Box Elder County if the broadband was there. So, Senator Wilson had this to say.
A working group that I'll be running legislation to form a broadband commission, and then that commission will have about 9 different people involved for oversight of the amount of money spent, or actually these funds. We're going to have anywhere between 100 million and maybe even up to 700-800 million of federal funds that we will be applying for the state of Utah. And so it's going to be quite a coordinated effort, and we'll be having legislation. We're getting a bill file. Should be ready to go the next couple of days. We'll be forming this commission, a broadband commission, and it's kind of a moving target right now on what it will be doing and an oversight. And it will be quite an interesting, like I said, process. And we're putting together a plan right now to present to the federal government. We've got some funds that'll be coming available in May to put together a very comprehensive plan on what areas of the state we can most help with getting broadband and fiber into these. Some of them are obviously rural areas, and some of them will be based on income. Will be part of what the federal funds. But we're ahead of a lot of other states. We do have a broadband center right now, and so hopefully that'll help us acquire and get as much federal funding available to help out in a number of different areas. And right now we're trying to decide what ARPA funds can be used for broadband and for fiber, and hopefully we can. There's no question. There's a lot of areas of Cache County. Talking to many mayors, we don't have fiber in a number of towns that I've talked with. So hopefully it will be very, very helpful and beneficial to obviously the Logan Canyon project and some other towns. And so really excited to be a part of that and have that opportunity. And it'll be going on. It'll be going on for years.
And one final item of interest from last night's legislative town hall. A question about gambling in Utah, the potential to legalize it. It's interesting where this is coming from, but there is a bill. This is, I think, the 3rd year this has come up. It's sponsored by a conservative Republican lawmaker out of Utah County, and it's a bill that would legalize horse track betting in Utah. Just that, not casinos or the Powerball lottery or anything like that, but it would legalize horse track betting in Utah. And every year it comes up, it dies quickly. It's back again this year, and there was a question about that for Cache Valley lawmakers. Is there a push to legalize certain types of gambling here in Utah? Representative Casey Snyder said he'd field this question last night.
I mean, I can start there. I don't see that as something that we're going to address right off the bat. I think, personally, I'm not supportive of it. There's a couple of reasons. I mean, obviously, there's just that general notion. It's in a lot of states, it ends up being a tax on poverty, and those that make a lot less money tend to dream big, even though the odds are not in their favor. The second thing I sort of have concerns about is once you open up base gambling, you also, by virtue of how our state is set up and how it interacts with some of our sovereign nations, you also open yourself up for casinos and that sort of thing. And I'm just not comfortable with that position, and it wouldn't be something that I would be supportive of at this time.
There you have it. The word from Representative Casey Snyder that there's not really a big push for this, but if it does come up, not something he's super excited about making happen. So I'm not sure what's behind this. People have asked me as well, what's behind this bill? I don't know. But it comes up again and again. All right. On the other side, we'll recap the committee hearing I've been following throughout the hour here on potential digital signatures for ballot initiatives. I'm curious. I thought this would die a quick death. It's getting a really robust discussion in a House committee hearing right now, the Political Subdivisions Committee. Maybe we'll have a report for you that looks like they're about to wrap up. We'll see if this bill makes it to a House floor debate as they vote here in just a few minutes. Stay tuned. More For the People right after this.
News Talk KVNU, 610 AM at 102.1 FM.
This is Polka. And this is Polka Boosted. Boosted is better. And when it comes to protecting yourself and those around you from COVID-19 and all its variants, it's no different. So if you've been fully vaccinated, don't wait to get boosted. Visit coronavirus.utah.gov today to schedule your booster.
This year, let's do Ski-Doo all winter, no matter the weather, because you've got to love that Ski-Doo feeling. So start off the season with the ultimate winter fun machine and get into gear to discover our state's beautiful landscapes. Take your whole family on an adventure filled with fun through marked trails and snow-covered mountains. Come meet the Ski-Doo experts and learn about the current promotions at Frank May Ski-Doo in Honeyville. Rest assured you'll get a fair deal. Frank May Ski-Doo is a two-time gold medalist in the 2021 Best of Northern Utah contest.
Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology is Cache Valley's most trusted name in hearing aids. Once again, you'll be able to hear a loved one's laughter and understand conversations. Schedule a free hearing evaluation with Dr. Paul Daines at Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. Call 753-4327. That's 753-HEAR. Or visit cachehearing.com.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
There's a lot going on right now, and broadcasters are on the ground covering all of it, bringing you the weather, the traffic, and breaking news, all while entertaining you 24 hours a day. Someone needs to tell you what's going on around the world and in our hometowns, and that someone is us. We are free radio. We are always there. We are broadcasters. Visit wearebroadcasters.com or text radio to 52886 to learn more. Furnished by NAB and this station.
Welcome back to KVN News For the People. Wrapping up today's show with a story that, I don't know, it got me kind of excited, even though I can understand why people are a bit apprehensive about this, and there are some pretty legitimate questions. Primarily, do they work, and are the economics actually going to pan out the way those pitching them say they will? Either way, they've caught the eye of state and federal Department of Energy officials. They're known as SMRs. Yeah, it stands for small. Let me make sure I get this right. Yes, SMR. I had to make sure I was saying that right. These are, look at them this way, they're non-traditional nuclear reactors. These are small modular reactors. That's what the SMR stands for. And we've been talking about these here on the show for a long time because the first time I'd ever heard of them, at least, was when a pilot program was proposed outside of Idaho Falls here in the West. And, of course, there was some controversy last year and the year before over cities had bought in, had started ponying up taxpayer dollars to buy into these SMR systems once perfected. A sound investment, I would say, for cities. And then cities decided to pull out of this specific project outside of Idaho Falls because of mismanagement. And it sounds like less than a failure of the SMR technology and more of a failure of the company behind that pilot program, whoever they were. So they're not going away, but they've been out of the spotlight since then, at least here in the West, until I saw this. An article at Politico titled "Big Coal States Eye Small Nuclear Reactors for Grid and Economy." The story detailed here is basically the story of Wyoming, Montana, West Virginia, Indiana, and this it does include Utah, although we're going to be way down that list as far as priorities go. And a meeting that happened recently, this idea behind this was referred to as a coal to nuclear transition. These next generation reactors replacing coal. Now, everyone kind of assumes, I think, that's already going to happen. But what was unique about this conversation? Well, two things. One, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Reactor Fleet and Advanced Reactor Deployment, that's the title, at the U.S. Department of Energy, showed up at a recent SMR discussion in Indiana and in Montana. Montana, by the way, is still home to the nation's largest coal production region, the Powder River Basin area. Which is still one of the largest get our electricity from coal areas. Utah's transitioning away from that. Wyoming was basically instructed, despite their objections by Rocky Mountain Power, that they were transitioning away from it, which means Wyoming is transitioning away from coal. And that's a pretty big deal because this has been a huge part of the economy. We've talked before, too, about the effect this can have on communities. I always point to the Uinta Basin area here in Utah, but there are hundreds of other communities like this throughout the nation and the world, actually, where the demise of coal is a source for power to make electricity and all the other uses. It's not turning around. Coal's days are done and probably long overdue on that anyway, considering the negative effects on our environment coal and other fossil fuels have, and the fact that we have these clean energy sitting right in front of us. But it does require that we get over there's no way to transition away from coal and other fossil fuels without embracing nuclear. That's my take, and I'm borrowing that from much smarter, more well-researched people in forming that opinion. It has to be a part of the picture. Sure, wind, solar, and perfecting those is going to be the major thrust of moving to cleaner fuels, but nuclear's got to be in there. To what level, I don't know. I'm not that expert, but I've read enough to know it's got to be in there. So DOE's presence, the Department of Energy's presence at this hearing in Indiana was actually a pretty big deal. It's the first time the federal Department of Energy has even shown an interest in the idea of these small modular reactors, nuclear reactors. Why, though? This is where it gets cool, and I've linked to this on our Facebook page, but they were looking at what's soon to be a former coal plant, an electricity plant powered by coal in Wyoming and another in Indiana, and they're pointing at those as perfect sites, perfect locations for these small modular reactors. And the reason they do this is, one, the coal plants are already wired. They're already on the grid. They already have the infrastructure necessary to supply power. Coal plants are usually close to a source of water, which even these small modular nuclear reactors need. And then they have a pre-trained workforce. This could be huge. It could mean that a lot of these communities looking at potentially becoming ghost towns don't. Thousands of Americans looking at having to find a new job, basically getting up-trained and keeping their old job, just working with nuclear, not coal. It does require the public wrapping their heads around this, which remains to be seen if we've moved on from, nuclear accidents of the past. Chernobyl still looms large in the mind, of course. No one wants to live next to that when it happens, right? Reasonable concern. And then there's, of course, the concern, do these small modular reactors actually work, and are the economics of them sound? Will they ever make money? Those questions remain, but it's really cool to see the conversation progressing and the Department of Energy actually tuning in here in the West to these small modular reactor discussions. Check it out. I've linked the story on our Facebook page, and we'll revisit this one, I'm sure.